quite good.
A timeless classic is completely reimagined with fight choreography by Hong Kong legend Yen Yen Zhang.
All for one!
The Musketeer, rated PG-13 at theaters Friday.
So this is actually another retelling of the classic Alexandre Dumas story, The Three Musketeers, but this is done very differently, as you'll see here. In 17th century Paris, you have the dashing swordsman named D'Artagnan, played by Justin Chambers, who would later go on to star in Grey's Anatomy, who finds himself at odds with the powerful forces taking over France. He sets out to avenge the murder of his parents and finds his country cleaved by chaos and civil unrest. His heart softens only for Francesca, played by Mina Suvari, who's a fiery peasant girl who claims D'Artagnan's heart on sight. The big selling point of this particular movie, as you saw from the trailer there, was that this was actually using stunt work done by Xing Zhang, who is a prolific stunt choreographer and performer. He's done a lot of stuff with Jet Li's movies, and so they were selling this movie specifically on this. It was also recognized by the Department of Gers as the first Musketeers adaptation to incorporate authentic scenery from the real D'Artagnan's home region. And that's all well and good and all, but if the movie is not good, then it's not really worth it when it's all said and done. And unfortunately, this movie really is not that good of a movie. It feels like a film that is just really, I don't know, like, on the one hand, it's trying to do something new and different with it, and at least with The Three Musketeers, there is at least some versions of this story that are actually much better than the others. Like, I would gladly take this over something like the one that Paul W.S. Anderson did, where, of course, he has to put his wife in there, because apparently that's the only way he can make movies, and even then, they're not great movies to begin with. But I'm trying to think of what the best Three Musketeers adaptation is, the more I think about it. And I know there was two comedies that were made with the producers of Superman behind them, but the ones that really stick out to me specifically are, of all things, the Mickey Mouse and the Mickey Mouse one that came out about a couple years after this, and then the Tom and Jerry ones with the two Musketeers, Jerry and Tuffy, I think it is. Like, it's the little kid that he always had with him, like Nibbles. Why do I think his name was Tuffy? I think it was named Tuffy at one point, but I think it's just Nibbles. But those are the ones I always remember as the bit more superior ones compared to some of the other adaptations. But like I said, I've never seen the Salkind one. Apparently, it was successful enough to launch another film after that, so I guess they were onto something there. But as far as this goes, it tries to do some things differently. It's kind of very unique in its own way, but it doesn't have enough there to really get you invested in what's going on here. The stunt work overall, it's fine, I guess, but it doesn't really amount to anything when it's all said and done. Like, it feels like Universal was trying to do their own version of something like a Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Like, it was because that became the unexpected success the year before, and all the studios had to say, well, we got to get in on this. And unfortunately, the film doesn't really do a good job of handling that. And I don't know, it just didn't work for me. It just felt like a film that was just kind of like, we try to do something different, we're trying to do a different retelling of the story, but it comes off too similarly to some of the other versions we've had up to this point, like The Man in the Iron Mask in '98 with Leonardo DiCaprio, or even the Disney one from about 10 years prior to this. But I guess I can't really say it's a bad movie. It's just one that doesn't really have the right execution and what it wanted to do when it was all said and done. It just felt like kind of a missed opportunity on so many different levels. But I mean, give them points for trying, at least. I mean, like I said, I'd gladly take this over that terrible one that Mila Jovovich was in. But I digress. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is the romantic comedy Two Can Play That Game.
6 seconds. Men, think about it.
You hit it, didn't you?
Oh, you're the dog.
That's why women think of ways.
Okay, baby's Keith. Give me a call, okay?
You have 11 messages.
That's what I'm talking about.
To make them big.
I need to get back to being the player that I used to be. Play on, pop the collar.
Two can play that game.
You looking at me? Mm-hmm. Check it out.
Rated R. Opens everywhere September 7th.
And I feel like an idiot right now because I keep thinking that Vanessa Williams is the main female actress in this movie, but no, Vanessa Williams and Vivica A. Fox clearly do not look the same, and I should have figured that out beforehand, but I don't know, for some reason I always thought that was Vanessa Williams there. I don't know why I thought it was. I don't know why I thought that, but I apologize for that. So if anybody gets offended by that, I'm sorry I didn't get to notice that before now. But Now I have a chance to redeem myself by at least talking about her in this movie, because the plot of this movie is that you have her playing Shantae Smith. Vivica A. Fox plays this woman who's so adept at navigating the waters of romancing that her best girlfriends depend on her for advice whenever man trouble clouds the horizon. But when her boyfriend Keith, played by Morris Chestnut, is caught red-handed stepping out with a coworker, she institutes her 10-day plan to get her man in line. Whether it's sexy lingerie or good home cooking, she has an arsenal of weapons destined to bring a man to his knees and back to her. She's not above playing the damsel in distress by using the ever-reliable local grapevine to get his attention. It's all good because getting her man back by any means necessary is all that matters. Unfortunately, the happy ending that she expects goes sideways when he begins following the advice of his buddy, who brings a player's perspective to the games girls play. In this comedic battle of the sexes, Shantae's about to discover that not only are there rules, she's not the only one playing. With her relationship at stake and her friends checking her every move, Shantae has to think fast and stay a step ahead of Keith if she has any hope of bringing her man back with her pride intact. So in a way, it's kind of a little reminiscent to something like a little bit of kind of a role reversal to, kind of reminds me of Boomerang a little bit, but at the same time also kind of a mix of The Sweetest Thing, which is a movie that it's a romantic comedy, but it's one of those romantic comedies where it's a little more mean-spirited than it actually lets on. I mean, that movie really is trying to go for more. It feels like it's a chick flick, but it's trying to go more for a wide appeal by bringing in more guy-related humor. And I feel like this movie's trying to be that way, except not as raunchy or as insane as that movie gets. And in some ways, it kind of hurts the movie in the long run, because there are aspects of this movie where things about it do work, but then other times it's just kind of like, what's the real end result of this whole thing? Like, what's the whole point of this? Like, what's supposed to come from me saying anything about this movie in particular if you're just going for an entirely mean-spirited angle to it? So really, I'm kind of mixed on how I feel about this movie, because I get what it's trying to do, but I think it's trying a little too hard to be a film that's trying to appeal not just to the ladies, but also to the guys as well. And I don't know if it's really doing a good job at it, quite honestly. I don't feel like it's really doing everything that it can to really do something that could stand out in both aspects of it all. But I will say this, the casting overall is very good in the film. Vivica A. Fox, Morris Chestnut, Anthony Anderson, Gabrielle Union, Wendy Raquel Robinson, Tamala Jones, Monique. I mean, there's a really strong cast in this movie, and they do carry the load here, where you do get some investment into it, even if you don't believe into what they're trying to accomplish here. Nor do you feel like it's actually going to pay off in the end. And of course, it's going to pay off in the end. It's going to have that similar storyline that we're all expecting. They're going to get together at the end, and they're going to learn something about each other. And even then, when they do it in here, it never really feels like it's really earned. That's kind of the thing that's really holding me back from saying it's something that I could recommend. I'm kind of on the fence about it, honestly, because I don't really know what exactly it was trying to really accomplish when it was all said and done. Nor do I feel like it's not a complete waste of time either. I think the effort is being put into it, and these people seem to really like playing these characters because they played them again in other things. Like, they had a stage play adaptation where a lot of the same cast members came back for this one, including Vivica A. Fox, and there was also a sequel where she came back for that one that went direct to DVD. So it has a following to it, and these people really do like playing these characters. So I don't know. I mean, to me personally, I just thought it was kind of a mixed bag. I can't really say if it's any good. I can't really say it's good, but I can't really say it's bad either. I just think it's really misguided in a lot of ways too. That's probably my biggest gripe of the movie, is that it's definitely misguided. It doesn't really have a good idea of who it's trying to aim itself towards. It's trying to be all appeal to everybody, but doesn't really do it when it's all said and done. So I don't know. Kind of a mixed opinion on this one for me personally, but that's just my personal take on it. But that's how two can play that game. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is Mark Wahlberg and Jennifer Aniston in Rockstar.
Do you want the gig then?
Rockstar, rated R. Starts Friday at a theater near you.
Speaking of movies that clearly had no idea what direction they wanted to go with, Rockstar, this movie with Mark Wahlberg, Jennifer Aniston. I remember the time this came out. This was supposed to be one of those movies that was heavily hyped. Of course, you have Jennifer Aniston, who was on the most popular show at the time, Friends. Mark Wahlberg was a rising star as an actor. Of course, he started his career as a musician and a model. But you have the story here of him playing Chris Izzy Cole, a tribute band singer who ascends to the position of lead vocalist in his favorite band. And supposedly this was supposed to be a role for Brad Pitt, who of course would later be dating Jennifer Aniston. In fact, I don't know, were they dating around this time period? Let me see. Yeah, they were married at this point. So yeah, they were. So I guess it kind of makes sense why they wanted to get him in there. But eventually he left because of creative differences, and that's when Mark Wahlberg came in. And Mark Wahlberg and Jennifer Aniston have proven over time that they are really good actors, but kind of like with Two Can Play That Game, it doesn't really have a good idea of what direction it really wants to go. I mean, some people say it's trying to be more like Spinal Tap. The more I look at the trailers for this, I get a sense of maybe like the jazz singer, the Neil Diamond jazz singer one, the one that came out in the 1980s, but even then that one wasn't all that great. And this one, I can't really decide whether or not it's actually good or not. It just feels like a film that really has a real hard time figuring out what the overall purpose of its existence is supposed to be. Is it supposed to be a serious movie? Is it supposed to be like a satirical comedy? What is it really trying to accomplish here? And the stuff they try to accomplish here, you've seen this stuff before, you know. You gotta have, it's a lot of cliches, like, of course, this guy's gonna lose his cool, he's gonna go have a mental breakdown, and then have his big comeback when it's all said and done. It's in this movie, and it just really does not work when it's all said and done. It's a movie that just feels like, okay, what was the overall purpose of this? Why was I even here? Like, it's like, what reason do I have to be to go into this movie? And I just really couldn't find anything about it that made it that interesting, honestly. Just kind of like, okay, it's there. What's its purpose? Like, what am I supposed to be taking from this? But unlike Two Can Play That Game, where I did find aspects to it that I thought were okay, Rockstar I can't really say that much about. To say that I should recommend it, or even say it's a mixed bag of a movie. But it's not really. It's more bad stuff than good stuff. Honestly, the more I think about it, it's just largely forgettable, man. It's a movie that just really, I think they had higher aspirations for, considering who they had on board, the hype that was built up around the time, but it just didn't live up to it when it was all said and done. So, Rockstar, let's go ahead and take a look at our last movie here, and that is the horror film, Soul Survivors.
You're in trouble. Cass.
Welcome to the party, Cass.
We're getting out of here.
Soul Survivors. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday, September 7th. Only in theaters.
Well, this one doesn't really need a whole lot of explanation because, let's be honest, you pretty much know how this is going to end. You have Melissa Sage Miller as this college student whose boyfriend, played by Casey Affleck, dies in a car accident that results from her driving after a night of partying. The accident leaves Cassie racked with guilt and emotionally vulnerable to the point that she begins having hallucinations and strange visions and waking dreams, even though Cassie's friends, and as well as local priests, Father Jude, all attempt to assist helping her and coping with her loss. So it's not really a horror thriller when you really think about it. It's more of a psychological thriller, and it'd be interesting if the characters were interesting, or the storyline was very interesting, or anything about this movie was very interesting, but sadly, no. This is one of those movies that I think just got past everything because they had a hot young cast at the time. You got Eliza Dushku from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You got Casey Affleck, who's in the American Pie movies. You got Melissa Sage Miller, who's been in a couple of other things. Angela Featherstone has been in a number of different things. Luke Wilson is the priest in here. But other than that, though, there's really nothing about this movie that holds up or has any value to it. Like, it's just a film that's there for date night, so people can go see an opening weekend, take the dates to it, and then never ever see this movie again afterwards, because nobody remembers this movie after this point. Even though it came from the same people that did I Know What You Did Last Summer and Urban Legend, they were trying to create the next big success, and they did not have it whatsoever, and you could pretty much see why if you saw the trailer for this right from the get-go. That thing was telling you right away, avoid like the plague, and that's what I'm telling you about this movie. Avoid it like the plague, because it ain't scary, it ain't interesting, it ain't anything. That's all I gotta say about that one. Soul Survivors.
These kids.
Now better back the heck up.
You've got to talk big.
What's going on?
All right, let me break it down to you right quick. Coffee say catch any apple ball in my dress.
I got it. Thanks.
This Friday.
You guys will never be a team until you see it played right.
Let's see me come on here.
Meet the Bad News Bears for the next generation.
One of the most important things in life is showing up. I'm blown away by your ability to show up.
Hardball, rated PG-13. Starts Friday in theaters everywhere.
So in Hardball, you have Keanu Reeves playing a bright, educated, handsome guy whose promising future was wrecked by his gambling addiction, which drags him into heavy drinking and petty crime, but worst of all, the stifling grip of loan shark bookies. Desperate for a loan, he agrees to stand in for a lawyer friend as coach of the Chicago Ghetto Little League baseball team, his sense of pride becoming the boys' sole idol in competition, plus their attractive teacher, played by Diane Lane, motivate Connor, but the crushing loan problem rather requires leaving town. And, I think the trailer pretty much sums it up right there. This is pretty much just Bad News Bears for a new generation, and a much more and a more adult Bad News Bears, a more serious Bad News Bears, if you will, because it's more serious than the original Bad News Bears. The original Bad News Bears is a comedy, and a really great comedy, but it does have those little brief flashes of moments where they do go for a little bit more of a dramatic edge, but it's never to the point that this movie particularly is. This is more of a movie that's basically a dramedy, and like I said, you have Keanu Reeves, Diane Lane, John Hawkes, Michael B. Jordan stars in this, in one of his, I believe this is one of his earliest film roles, if I'm not mistaken, if not his first one. Let me see here. Yeah, this is the first one he's been in. He'd been in a couple of other TV shows, like he had a cameo on The Sopranos, and in his first year, as well as the CBS Cosby Show that was on in the 90s, but this is his first big screen appearance, and I think the movie itself is fine for what it is, but it definitely feels like a film that very much has a lot of that thing that we've seen done in various sports movies like this. I mean, this is pretty much Bad News Bears. It's the Mighty Ducks. It's Major League. It's a lot of these movies where the underdog team has to go in and be the champions that they can be, and motivates the team not only gets motivated, but the coach gets motivated, and they have this big moment at the end where, you know, everybody has to basically like come together when it matters the most, and you know, it's pretty much a story we've seen done to death. But I like the little twists that they do throw in here. They do throw some curveballs in here that's just like, okay, I didn't expect to see that coming, so I'll give you credit for that, because there are moments where the movie does have a happy ending, but it also has kind of a sad ending too. Something happens to one of the characters in the movie, and it's just a tragic event, and it's just it really does take you into a sense of reality here, because like it really does show the humanity of the characters when this particular moment happens in here. It happens before the big game too, so there's a lot of questions of whether or not, when this person dies, do they want to continue on? Should they continue on? And they eventually do, and not surprisingly, they win the championship. But I do like the little curveballs that they throw in there for you. They don't really go down the pathway that you think it does, even though most of the story does. That little curveball they throw at the end there actually helps the movie give it its own little distinctive personality to it, its own unique edge to it. And for that, I give it a lot of credit for that. So I can't really say it's a great movie overall, but because of those little moments like that, and because the acting overall is very good, I have to give him points for that as well, because I think it works in the film's favor. I think it is a very solid film. Not a great film by any means, but certainly not a bad film by any means either. I think it works fine for what it is. If you can get past the very much generic storyline that this movie takes with it, I think you can handle it for what it is. It's a fine movie for what it is, but it's not one I'm going to say you must check it out. I'm saying, like, if you want to see a good Keanu Reeves movie that didn't get the proper attention it deserves, definitely check this one out. I think it's definitely worth the watch. So with that said, let's move on to our last movie that we have here, and that is The Glass House.
Still Korean, but what's going on inside?
I found a fake personal piggy bank.
I have to make my move.
Is a lesson, Ruby, in survival. The Glass House opens everywhere Friday.
So in this movie is a psychological mystery thriller, which also stars Diane Lane, who was also in Hardball. But it tells the story of two siblings who go to live with friends of their parents as the oldest of the siblings start to get suspicious of the family's friends' patriarchy. And, believe it or not, this is actually not the first movie to have the title The Glass House. I think there's, like, literally 4 movies with this exact title, and I think one of them was actually released in theaters 15 years later. It's just like I guess the Glass House is a generic-ass title, so I guess we gotta take that, but it's a movie that is not really all that memorable the more you think about it, despite too good of a cast for this. Lily Sobieski, Diane Lane, Stellan Skarsgård, Bruce Dern, Chris Noth. The director of this is Daniel Sackheim, who's gone on to have a prolific television career as a director, directing episodes of The Walking Dead, The Americans. He also did Law and Order, X-Files. Like, he's a good director overall. And Wesley Strick, who gave us the great Martin Scorsese remake of Cape Fear 10 years ago. I mean, this is a good team all around here. But there's nothing about this movie that really works when it's all said and done. It's a movie that just really feels like a film that you know what's coming. You know what the twists are going to be. You know what the foreshadowing is going to be. You know who the bad guy is. You know who the hero's got to be. You know, you got to have that big twist at the end. And honestly, I think people were getting sick and tired of it because it quickly crashed and burned at the box office. It didn't do any money whatsoever. And they apparently had like 74 minutes worth of footage that the studio didn't even want because they had no intentions on having this movie around here. And it's been considered lost media. But think about that. The original cut of this was 3 hours long. Who the hell is going to sit in this movie for 3 hours and watch this movie when you have clearly nothing here that even warrants is that much of a running time? They took out 74 minutes of this movie, and at 106 minutes, it still feels really, really long. Like really, like it's a terrible, terrible movie. And you know, like I said, this came days after September 11th, and some people actually use that kind of as a criticism to the film itself, criticizing the film's violence and the timing of the release. And a lot of critics saw this as the first film they saw after they got back to work. And, you know, I can see where they're coming from. I don't know if I'm going to blame the 9/11 attacks on the movie being bad. It's just a bad movie. It just wasn't a movie that was executed well. It didn't deliver anything that interesting that make people really want to go see it. And there's just nothing about it that's worth it when it's all said and done. It's a lackluster movie on a number of different levels. It's a type of movie that usually would be in a dumping ground month like January I was going to say Wednesday, but in the month of August. But they put it out in September, and came and went. Nobody really remembers it, and there's probably a good reason for it. So that is The Glass House.
Everybody, my daughter over there. She's going to be a really big star one day. You guys in for a real treat. Come on, y'all, give her a hand. Come on, give her a hand.
In a world where proving yourself is everything.
Hey, Billy, can you repeat that verse?
They don't matter. They're just backup.
One woman is about to get the chance
When the microphone comes, do something special.
to go from unknown
You have got a beautiful voice. I want to produce you.
Yeah, right.
to a world she's only dreamed of.
Don't you be getting all freaky on the first date. It's not a date.
Remember the name, Billy Frank.
Turn it up. I'm on the radio.
I'm a big fan. Maybe we should get together. They want you to work with other producers.
The label makes these decisions.
Well, you can't let him use the best of you.
What makes you think that's the best of me?
Music brought them together.
We're on our way, baby.
Fame could tear them apart.
Me and us will go together. Don't forget that.
But love
He's here.
will never let it end.
Taurus.
Mariah Carey. Glitter.
So in Glitter, Mariah Carey plays Billy Frank, an aspiring singer who, along with her friends Louise and Roxanne, is a club dancer. And Timothy Walker, played by Terrence Howard, offers them a contract as backup singers and dancers to another singer, played by Pamela Lakshmi, from you see her on Top Chef all the time. She's also been in Sharpay's Revenge, a lot of stuff for the BBC. But she's the singer that they're backing up. And at the premiere of the song they record, Billy meets a nightclub DJ played by Max Beasley, who helps her in her solo career, and in the process the two fall in love. Now really, the craziest thing about this movie is that it's a bad movie, but it isn't a horrible movie. It's not really, like, the story is very much generic. It's actually the second movie we've gotten in September of 2001 where you have a storyline that focuses on a kind of a jazz singer type of storyline here. The movie itself is not that bad. It's just very generic, and I think Mariah Carey in here is not really the biggest problem with her movie is that she's not really doing a whole lot here to warrant her as an actress. I mean, she's not really playing a character. She's just playing herself. And, you know, if you're gonna make it as a musician turned actress, you got to be able to play more than just yourself. I mean, that's what people like Madonna have done that successfully. Beyonce Knowles has done that successfully. I mean, there's been a lot of singers out there who have been successful at transitioning from musician to an actress. I mean, you're an entertainer, and here she's not really doing a whole lot with it, and the film really struggles because of it. And really, the movie itself is not the biggest thing I wanted to cover with this, because the movie itself is just bland. It's bland, it's mediocre, it's nothing that grand or spectacular, and it's just not that it's just not an interesting movie in any way, shape, or form. It's mostly a mess of a film that really doesn't do anything new or different that makes it stand out on its own. But that's not really the big thing I wanted to cover with this. What I want to cover is the controversy going on behind the scenes. I should say controversies, because obviously this is just opening up days after September 11th, and yeah, a movie like this is not going to do well a couple days after September 11th. In fact, there's literally a picture on Wikipedia's page where you see the Twin Towers burning on September 11th with a glitter poster in the background, and it's just like, good lord, man. Like, but even with that, we need to go back 2 months before this, because if you watch Total Request Live on MTV with Carson Daly on July 19th, 2001, you know almost immediately what I'm about to bring up here. So she was on there a month beforehand promoting the album for this, and then, you know, there was a thing on there where some things had started to come out where she was dealing with some erratic behavior. She had to do this massive promotional campaign where she barely got any sleep, and then she shows up on the show 106 in Park on the BET network, where she hid her thighs between large pillows and ranted that her life was one day that was continuous. Like, something was about to bubble up here, and sure enough, 2 days later, on Total Request Live on MTV, she comes up out of nowhere, and she does this.
That was on Real remix.
Boy, come on and love me.
What the hell's that?
Give me more.
Mariah Carey. You gotta be kidding me.
Ice cream truck.
Unannounced to me.
Wait, get the truck. Hi, Carson.
What are you doing here?
Hi.
How are you?
I just thought I'd surprise
What are
you.
you wearing? I don't know. What are you doing here is the question.
I'm here. Can you hold this?
Yeah,
I
sure.
brought you a present. It's this shirt.
Yes, of course it does. What are you doing? Oh, my God. What are you doing? Mariah Carey is stripping on TRL right now. Is it my birthday that I didn't know about it? Wow.
You like this.
Holy mackerel.
You like this.
Hey, can we get the AC cranked down? The AC. Crank it down. Get nice and close. Don't stare at her and help her through this.
I just wanted one day off when I can go swimming and look at rainbows and, like, eat ice cream.
Right.
And maybe, like, learn how to ride a bicycle.
What's wrong?
Every now and then, somebody needs a little therapy.
Yes, I understand that.
And today is that moment for me.
Really what I'm saying inside is, wow, I mean, I hope she is okay. I really think she just kind of blew a gasket. Sure enough, the next day she's, checked herself into the hospital.
I mean, that's a full-blown meltdown right there. That's the textbook definition of a meltdown, where you're just doing stuff to get attention and you have no idea what you're doing. And strangely enough, nobody really noticed anything too serious at first. She still did stuff after this. Like, she did a record signing in Long Island. She went on Howard Stern. But it didn't take till she started rambling on different subjects in general here, and talking this. There was one point where she had all these erratic voice messages posted onto her website, and that was almost a week later, that's when they finally said, okay, you need to be checked into a hospital because you are having an emotional breakdown. And sure enough, because of that, they had to postpone the movie, because it was supposed to come out in August, late August, on Labor Day weekend, but then they pushed it back because of what had happened with Mariah Carey. And sure enough, I mean, once she got out of there, she got back to work, started promoting the movie again. And then September 11th happens, and to the point where, you know, she's talked about it since then, talking about that she believed the film's failure at the box office was largely due to the soundtrack being released on September 11th, the same day as, of course, the terrorist attacks. And she went on to say that the movie was released on September 11, 2001. Could there be a worse day for the movie to come out? I don't even know that many people even saw the movie, which, okay, you can use that as kind of an excuse, but if you're just going to sit there and pretend like the thing that happened to you 2 months ago, where you're literally having an emotional and mental breakdown in several places, is not a contributing factor to this, it's just like, clearly something was going on with her, and it really, it's unfortunate because, you know, Mariah Carey, I still think of her as one of the great singers that we have. I mean, she's right up there with people like, you know, Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston. I'll even say guys like people like Sam Smith, modern guys like Sam Smith, The Weeknd, you know, a lot of great singers out there, and she's definitely very high up as one of the great singers of all time. And, you know, this was just at a point in time where she was having so much success. I mean, she started a career back in early 1990, and it got to this point 11 years later where she finally just had this moment where, like, everything was just, like, too much for her, and she broke down and basically had to start from scratch again. And shortly after that, I mean, she took some time off, and then after that, her career kind of bounced back again, and now she's the Mariah Carey that we know her as today. She's one of the great singers. She still makes she still makes a ton of great songs now and then, and she's been in some movies too, which is literally playing. She's literally playing herself, and it's not in like this movie right here where it's supposed to be her storyline. It's like in cameos where she's literally playing herself. She was in You Don't Mess with the Zohan. She was in what was another movie she was in I'm thinking of. She's been in a couple of Lee Daniels movies, really good Lee Daniels movies. Precious. She was in The Butler. I mean, she was the mayor in the Lego Batman movie. People forget that she was in that movie, and she was actually pretty funny in there, even though it's basically just a small little cameo there. And she even did another movie that came out after this a year later called Wise Girls, which also had Mira Sorvino in it. Mira Sorvino and Melora Walters, and I've never seen that movie, so I can't really say if it's any good or not, but she has proven that she at least can show that she could be a good actress if you put her in something where, you know, she's actually given something to do and has a good script to work off of. With this, it was really hard to make this work, mostly because of the fact that, this is a film that is clearly trying to be the new jazz singer for a new generation. We already had a movie that was trying to do that with Rockstar, and that failed miserably. And with this, I don't think it's a bad movie. I just think it's a major missed opportunity on a number of different levels. It doesn't do anything new or unique that makes it stand out compared to other movies like this that have done it so much better. And it's not that the movie is bad. It's just there's nothing there. There's nothing about it that makes it stand out. It's just another one of these movies that we've seen done to death so many times. And it just gets to the point where it's just like, what am I supposed to take from this except for a story that we've seen done to death so many times? And it's just a film that the film was just not a good movie. It was just not a good film to begin with. And, you know, you can make a companion movie to something and make it fun. Like, I mean, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker is such a bizarre, what the hell were you thinking when you made this movie? But at the same time, it's still a trip. It's still a fun, nostalgic trip. I mean, I just saw a movie that just came out yesterday, as of the time of recording this, on Amazon. Jennifer Lopez has a new movie out, This Is Me Now, which is a companion to a new album that's out right now. It's a bizarre mess of a movie, and I can't believe she actually decided to looked at Moonwalker and said, well, I could do this too. I can be as chaotic if like Michael Jackson can. And it's really an interesting trip of a movie. And I gotta say, man, I actually kind of found myself enjoying it because of how insane it got. And also because it's a fun, short ride. It was only an hour long. This thing is, I think, over 2 hours, if I'm not mistaken. About 2 hours, so I was close. But yeah, like, they really needed to have something really stand out in terms of the story and actually give Mariah Carey a good script to work with to actually make this work. But, hey, the soundtrack was a success eventually, so I guess there's that. But the movie, not so much. And it's definitely a movie that's mostly known more for the controversies going on behind the scenes, the fact that it was released just days after 9/11, and it just didn't work out. It just didn't work out on a number of levels. You can see why Mariah Carey hasn't tried to hasn't tried to really establish another leading role since then, taking mostly supporting roles, and even when she does take a leading role, it's in smaller movies, like I talked about Wise Girls. But I mean, it's not a good movie. It's the bottom line here. It's not a good movie, but I don't think it's as bad as everyone made it out to be. I think it's just bad because of the stuff that was going on behind the scenes. It's just a generic, mediocre film. I mean, it's nothing about it that makes it worthy or necessary, and it's just like, there's really nothing about it that I really need to see more of. Like, it's just like, I saw it, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was, so I guess that's the best positive thing I could say about it, but I have no real intention of ever watching it again. I mean, and you know what? I saw Crossroads with Britney Spears that came out just months after this. Now, that's a movie that's much worse than this movie is. This is just bland. That movie's a trip on its own. We'll get to that one eventually, but yeah, not much more I can say about this one. Glitter, I'll just say that it's not as bad as people made it out to be, but it's not good either.
Come on, let's join the downhill race.
I heard that.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Jesse, come on. Breakfast is getting cold.
We have your daughter.
Daddy.
You have a patient. She has a 6-digit number in her head. I need that number. You need your daughter back. Michael Douglas.
Your telephone number?
No.
Is it a place?
Nope.
And they're gonna kill her? What is it? No!
Don't say a word.
I'll never tell.
Rated R. September 28th, only in theater.
So in Don't Say a Word, you have a group of thieves that steal a rare gem, but in the process, 2 of the men double-cross the leader of the thieving group and take off with the precious stone. Now, 10 years have passed, and a prominent psychiatrist, played by Michael Douglas, is invited to an exam a disturbed young woman named Elizabeth, played by Brittany Murphy. Patrick immediately kidnaps Nathan's daughter, forcing Nathan to attempt to get Elizabeth to reveal a secret number, which will ultimately lead Patrick to the whereabouts of the precious gem that has eluded him. And, yeah, another one of those movies here that was affected by the September 11th attacks, where the movie came out 3 weeks after September 11th, and filmmakers had to basically decide, should they delay the movie or try to edit the movie together. So, because this takes place in New York City, and of course you have to get rid of the shots of the World Trade Center. But now they basically just decided to edit the film altogether. They got rid of a lot of the shots of the World Trade Center, such as the opening shot of the movie, which now is basically Brooklyn. And on one hand, yeah, I get why they did it, because of obviously what had just happened, but I don't know. Getting rid of the World Trade Center basically kind of except for the fact that it never really existed to begin with. But again, I got why they did it, because of the stuff that happened before. I just don't think it was a good. Personally, I don't think it was a really good move in the long run. Because unfortunately, with a lot of movies that came before and after the September 11th attacks and TV shows, like the Simpsons episode where they went to New York City, and a good chunk of it takes place in the World Trade Center, that was banned from syndication for a long period of time. And then Home Alone 2, they took out the World Trade Center bit for various different edits of the movie, including the most recent one on Freeform. But again, I get why they did it, for obvious reasons. But I don't know. Like, to me, doing it in this movie in particular, I don't know. I don't think it really would have affected the movie either way, shape, or form if it took place before the events of September 11th or afterward. But as far as the movie itself goes, it's kind of a mediocre movie, but it has the potential to be something really, really good. The performances really do carry it. Like, Michael Douglas, I think, is very good in the movie, especially Brittany Murphy. I thought Brittany Murphy really commanded the role of this very well, playing the woman that he has to investigate in order to figure out where this jewel is that they're trying to find. And I thought she was very good in the movie. It showed the potential of what she could be as an actress, and she was shown in a couple of other movies down the road, some not so great, but we'll get to those ones eventually. But she was pretty good in the movie too. I thought the performances overall did carry the movie to a level where I could say that it did work when it needed to. The story, I think, is kind of generic, and the big twist that happens basically kind of figures out to be what you expect it to be. I mean, you can pretty much tell where's it going to go, and it doesn't really lead itself into anything too spectacular or anything too intriguing to give it its own unique edge to it. I think the only thing that really does give it the unique edge is the performance by Brittany Murphy, which I think really is the true centerpiece of the movie. I think if that didn't work altogether, this thing would just crater apart at the seams almost immediately. But for what it is, I think it is an overall enjoyable film for what it is. I think it is it's a very enjoyable film, mostly because of the performances, not the mystery alone. It's kind of generic overall. it does run a little bit too long, but I think you can enjoy the performances enough to really get a sense of what the movie was trying to accomplish here. And I think that was the best thing about the film in general, are the performances. The story itself, kind of been there, done that, but you can let it slide with the performances being as good as they are. I think that's the best reason to watch the film. For a one-time watch, I'd say definitely check it out, but nothing, you're not really going to want to watch it again after the first time, honestly, but that's just my take on that one. So that's Don't Say a Word. So let's go ahead and move on to the next movie we have here, and that is Ben Stiller in Zoolander.
Most famous supermodel on the planet. Now,
the Prime Minister must be eliminated.
He'll be called upon to save the day. We need your help. He just won't be able to spell it. D-A-I-Y-E. Friday. Meet the new face.
They're breakdance fighting.
Of danger. Ben Stiller.
If you find the files, you can stop them. They're in the computer.
They're in the computer? Zoolander. Rated PG-13. Starts Friday every...
So Zoolander was based off of a series of little segments from the VH1 Fashion Awards in 1996 and 97, and featured Ben Stiller as this dim-witted supermodel, and it was basically the last movie that they did with it's the last movie that Paramount did with the involvement of Village Roadshow Pictures, who went exclusively to Warner Brothers after this. They also worked on Don't Say a Word just before this, but in the film, top people in the fashion industry, including Mugatu, played by Will Ferrell, and Derek's agent, played by Jerry Stiller, are hired by other executives to assassinate the Prime Minister of Malaysia, who will pass progressive laws that would harm their business. The two plan to brainwash Zoolander into killing him. Meanwhile, Zoolander has several personal and career issues, including declining popularity, disappointment in his career choices with his family, and trying to find his true purpose when he suspects as not being a model. Through much research, there's a journalist played by Ben Stiller's wife, Christine Taylor, who becomes aware of the planned assassination and informs Derek about it. After he reconciles with the competing male model, played by Owen Wilson, the three try to stop the Prime Minister's assassination from happening. So yeah, basically, it's trying to be a new Austin Powers, and it was the first comedy to open up after September 11th, so that kind of, needless to say, that kind of dinged the movie's box office potential back then because of what happened. In fact, this is another one of those movies like Don't Say a Word where you had to have Ben Stiller basically made the decision to digitally remove any backgrounds that originally contained the two Twin Towers in the background skyline. And he defended his decision at the time to do that, and he did what he thought was appropriate at the time, which is amusing because when the movie The World Trade Center came out with Oliver Stone directing it, you could see a poster of Zoolander in the background as the plane was about to hit the towers. And the Twin Towers actually were later restored in the regular Blu-ray edition that came out about 15 years later. But Zoolander was one of those movies that everybody seems to really like, everybody really gets involved in, but I don't know. For me personally, it didn't really help. It's one of those movies that didn't really, it didn't really have that lasting impact with me. I thought it was funny at times. I always watched that movie thinking, I'm going to find the one time where I'm going to really, really love this movie, and I just can't really find it, man. But there's definitely times when the movie can be very funny. There are a lot of silly, over-the-top moments. I mean, the scene where Derek's party is basically going around town with Wake Me Up Before You Go, and they all die in a gas explosion. But, I mean, that's funny stuff right there. It's dark humor. That I like me some dark humor, but in this particular case, it's not all over the place. And I wish it kind of was, because I think that really carried my appreciation for this movie a little bit more. But honestly, the jokes are very hit and miss for me. It's not really that funny when it met all the way through. Austin Powers at least has a good gimmick to it that makes it very funny throughout the course of the movie. It knows it's not supposed to take itself too seriously. It knows it's a comedy. But in this movie's case, I don't know. It just didn't really do it for me personally. I just thought it kind of dragged on a little bit too long. Plus, like I said, it dragged on a little bit too long. Even at 90 minutes, it feels like it drags on way too long. And I didn't really get the full investment and the overall enjoyment of it that I think a lot of people really wish they could have gotten. Really wish they did get with it, because a lot of people do like this movie. I don't know. Me personally, I just kind of like, it's funny at times, but not enough for me to say it's a movie that I recommend. Not a bad movie, but certainly not as good as everyone makes it out to be. This is one that I always go into it thinking, this is going to be the one time I'm going to find the golden nugget about this movie. And it's just like, nope, never really do. And so that's Zoolander. So let's go ahead and move on to our last movie, which is Anthony Hopkins in Heart of Atlantis.
On September 28th, look in my eyes. On this quiet street, a stranger will arrive and pass his power to another. From the author of The Green Mile. Find the Queen of Hearts. And the director of Shine. Tell me what you see.
This one here.
Anthony Hopkins. Hearts in Atlantis. Rated PG-13. Sneak preview this Friday and Saturday starts September 28th.
Or Hearts in Atlantis, whatever title you want to go with here, but this is a gentle, innocent movie about the reflections of an aging man played by David Morse who returns to his hometown after the death of his best friend. Memories of life at age 11 flood back as it was a magical time for him that changed his life. 3 11-year-old children played by Anton Yelchin, Mika Buram, and Will Rothhar share their lives. Carol and Bobby have a special affection for one another, including sharing a kiss by which all of this will be measured. Bobby lives with his mother Liz, played by Hope Davis, a bitter, vain woman who looks for pleasure for herself without sharing much with her son. Into the lives comes a mysterious new boarder played by Anthony Hopkins who befriends the boy but generates distrust from his mother. As time passes, the man and the boy share confidences and special powers are revealed. The man wants the boy to be on the lookout for the low man in yellow coats who are seeking him, and the two share summer adventure and come to love one another before the inevitable happens. A competition with the school bully also changes everyone. So this is based off of a series of stories by Stephen King that was part of a novella of his called Hearts in Atlantis, and it's loosely based on the Dark Tower tie-in, Low Men in Yellow Coats, as I just said before. But William Goldman wrote this, who wrote The Green Mile, and also it's directed by Scott Hicks, who also did the movie Shine. And again, it's fine for what it is, but it really is. It's one of those movies that you could clearly tell is trying to be an Oscar bait movie, a movie that's going up for so many awards. I mean, Anthony Hopkins is at the forefront of this movie. The performances, I think, are okay overall, but it's never enough for me to really say the movie in general works because of it. It's just a movie that's just kind of like, it's fine for what it is, but again, it's not that great of a movie overall. It's definitely a lackluster film that doesn't really have a good story, but the performances, I do think, carry the load a little bit to sort of recommend it for what it is. Kind of like with Don't Say a Word, I would say that for a one-time watch it works, but other than that, though, there's no real reason to watch this again a second time, So yeah, that's Hearts in Atlantis.